She smiled when she opened the door. A slow, unhurried smile that made me forget why I'd come upstairs in the first place. The hallway smelled faintly of rain and her perfume. Something soft, like sandalwood and citrus. I'd only been renting the upstairs room for 3 weeks, but I already knew her rhythms. The way her slippers dragged slightly when she moved through the kitchen. The way she'd hum just under her breath when she washed dishes. "Rent day," she said, leaning against the frame. Her voice carried that easy confidence people only get after a few heartbreaks. "Yeah," I said, holding up the envelope. "I didn't forget this time." She took it but didn't look inside. Her fingers brushed mine for a second. Too light to mean anything, too long to mean nothing. Behind her, the living room was dim, curtains drawn halfway. A record played softly. An old jazz tune, scratchy but warm. The light caught on her hair, and for a second I thought about how the silver at her temples wasn't something she tried to hide. She just let it be there, like everything else about her, honest, unbothered. "Come in," she said. "You might as well have some coffee while you're here." I just made a pot. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because every time I was near her, something in me shifted, quiet but noticeable, like the air before a storm. She noticed, of course. She always did. "It's just coffee," she said, half smiling again. "I won't bite. Right?" I said, stepping inside. "Unless I forget rent again." That made her laugh. A low, easy sound that felt too good to be casual. Her kitchen wasn't spotless, it was lived in. A sweater hung over a chair, half a lemon on the counter, a mug with lipstick on the rim. I sat while she poured 2 cups. She didn't ask how work was going or how I liked the room. Instead, she said, "You're quiet lately." "I guess I've been tired." "From what?" I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came out. Because I didn't really know. From everything, maybe. From trying too hard or not enough. She set my cup in front of me, then leaned against the counter, studying me. "You're not like the others," she said softly. "The others? Tenants. Boys. You're different." There was no mockery in her tone, just observation. Maybe that was what got me. She saw things and didn't rush to name them. Her sleeve slipped when she reached for her own mug. I caught a glimpse of her wrist, a faint scar that looked old. She noticed me noticing, and for a second, neither of us moved. "You don't have to pretend not to see things," she said quietly. I swallowed. "I wasn't. You were." The air between us thickened. Not with words, but with all the things we didn't say. She broke it first. "You're behind on utilities, right?" I blinked. "A little, yeah. I was going to." She set her mug down, turned fully toward me. "Maybe there's a different way you can pay this month." Her tone wasn't playful. Not quite serious either. Just suspended. For a heartbeat, I forgot how to breathe. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere distant. The kind that warns rain's coming but hasn't arrived yet. Then, 3 sharp knocks at the door downstairs. She didn't move. Neither did I. Her eyes stayed on mine, calm, steady. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I was the one being tested, or if she was. The rain came that night, hours after the knocking stopped. I heard it from my room. Soft at first, then heavier, the kind that fills the silence you don't know how to sit with. Couldn't sleep. Her voice kept looping in my head. "Maybe there's a different way you can pay this month." She hadn't said it with a smile. She'd said it like a test. Like she wanted to see who I'd be when the line blurred. By morning, the rain had stopped. I found her in the yard, hair damp, robe tied loose at the waist. She was kneeling beside a pot of half-dead herbs, running her fingers through the soil. "You should have stayed inside," I said. "You'll catch cold." She didn't look up. "You can't save something if you ignore it." Then, quieter, "That goes for more than plants." There was a tiredness in her voice, not physical, deeper. A weight that came from years of being the only adult in the room, even when she didn't want to be. I crouched next to her. "You talk like someone who's done this before." She smiled faintly. "Maybe I have." She told me, almost offhand, about her ex-husband. How he'd left 6 years ago. How she hadn't dated since. Not really, she said, as if even the idea was something distant. When she talked, she didn't dramatize it. No bitterness, no tears. Just facts softened by time. But every so often, her hand would tighten around a leaf or brush dirt off her palm like she needed to keep moving. I wanted to ask more, but I didn't. Instead, I reached out and pulled a small weed from the soil. She noticed, her hand stilled, then brushed mine by accident. It wasn't much, a simple, glancing touch, but it sent something through me I didn't expect. She must have felt it too, because her breath hitched before she stood abruptly. "You should get ready for work," she said. Her tone was steady again, practiced. "You'll be late." That night, I came home to find the lights off except one, the small lamp in the living room. She was there, reading, glasses sliding halfway down her nose. "You forgot your umbrella this morning," she said without looking up. "I left it by the door." "Thanks. You're drenched." "Got caught again." She sighed and stood, brushing past me toward the kitchen. Her shoulder brushed mine. Not hard, just enough to make it impossible to move without acknowledging it. I didn't. Neither did she. The kettle clicked on. Steam rose. "You shouldn't let yourself get soaked like that," she said, her back still to me. "Why? You worried." She turned slightly, enough for her profile to catch the light. "Don't be clever," she said, but there was no edge to it. When she handed me the towel, her fingers lingered on my wrist, just long enough to feel the pulse there. Neither of us spoke. The silence felt warm this time, not empty. She looked up at me then, really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see the landlady. Just a woman who'd been alone too long. It started with a broken light bulb. I'd been fixing the upstairs hallway fixture when she came home, balancing grocery bags against her hip. The scent of rain still clung to her coat. "Careful," she said, looking up at me on the step stool. "That thing's ancient." "I got it," I said, though the bulb slipped from my fingers anyway, shattered on the floor between us. She jumped back, hand to her chest. I climbed down fast, muttering apologies, brushing glass from the floor. She crouched beside me without hesitation, her hand landing on my wrist to stop me. "Hey," she said, voice low. "You'll cut yourself." Her touch was warm, steady. I didn't move. For a second, the air between us tightened again, that same current I kept pretending not to feel. Her fingers slid away slowly, leaving a trail of heat behind. "Sorry," she murmured, looking down. "It's fine." Neither of us meant the bulb. Later that evening, she knocked on my door. "I made soup," she said. "Too much for one person." I knew that was an excuse. She knew I knew. But I still followed her downstairs. The kitchen light was dim, flickering faintly. She ladled soup into bowls, movements slower than usual. "You shouldn't be so kind to me," I said quietly. "Why not? People will talk." She smiled without humor. "People always talk. You'll learn that when you're older." I almost laughed. "You sound like my mother." Her eyes lifted then, sharp, almost wounded. "Don't say that." The silence after that was heavy. I wanted to take it back, but she looked away first, pretending to check the pot. When she finally sat across from me, she was distant, but not cold, just guarded, like she'd rebuilt the wall between us brick by brick in seconds. We ate quietly. The clink of spoons was the only sound. Then her phone buzzed, a message. She glanced at it, frowned. "My sister," she said. "She wants to stop by tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" "She's nosy. Thinks I need a social life." There was a dry humor in her voice, but also something else. Unease. "She can't know?" I asked before realizing how that sounded. "Know what?" she said softly. I couldn't answer. Neither could she. The light flickered again. Her gaze drifted to my face, then down to my hands resting on the table. She reached out without thinking, brushed her thumb across a cut I hadn't noticed from the glass earlier. "You did hurt yourself," she whispered. Her voice was almost a whisper, her thumb tracing once, twice, then stopping. The distance between us closed like a held breath. Her hand hovered near my cheek now, her face inches away. If she moved a little closer, a sharp knock at the front door. We froze. She pulled her hand back instantly, stood too fast. "Stay here," she said. Her tone was back to normal, but her hands trembled as she fixed her hair. I heard her talking quietly at the door. A neighbor's voice. Something about the mail. When she came back, her composure was perfect again. Almost. "You should go upstairs," she said softly. I nodded. But as I passed her in the hallway, her hand brushed my back. Light, deliberate. Not an accident this time. The night her sister came, I stayed upstairs, lights off, listening. Laughter carried through the floorboards. Hers, warmer than I'd heard in weeks. But something about it stung. I shouldn't have cared. She was my landlady. I was her tenant. Still, I found myself standing by the window, watching their silhouettes move through the kitchen light. Her pouring wine. Her sister gesturing wildly. Both of them caught in a rhythm I didn't belong to. When the car finally pulled away, the silence afterward hit like a wave. A soft knock came at my door. "It's me," she said. I opened it. She was barefoot. Her makeup smudged slightly at the corners of her eyes. A bottle of wine dangled from her hand, half empty. "She thinks I'm lonely," she said, stepping inside. I told her I'm not. Her tone dared me to challenge that. I didn't. She set the bottle down, leaned against my desk. The lamp light traced the curve of her collarbone, the delicate tiredness in her eyes. "Do you ever wish people would just stop assuming things?" she asked. "About what? About what you want, who you should be with." I tried to keep my voice steady. "You mean someone your age?" Her laugh was short, sharp. "You think I don't know how this looks?" I didn't answer. She pushed off the desk, came closer. The space between us shrank until I could feel the warmth from her body. "I see the way you look at me," she said quietly. I swallowed. "You make it hard not to." Her eyes lifted to mine, and for a long, suspended moment, neither of us moved. Her breath touched my skin when she spoke again. "Say it." "What?" "What you're thinking right now." My pulse thudded in my throat. "You don't want to hear it." "Maybe I do." She took another step, close enough that her knee brushed mine. My hand lifted on its own, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She didn't pull away. Her eyes fluttered, half closed. I could smell the wine on her breath, sweet, earthy. Her hand found my shirt, resting there, fingertips pressing just enough to make me forget where I was. "You shouldn't," I whispered. "Why?" she murmured. "Because I'm older? Because someone might see? Because it'll mean something." That stopped her. She looked up, something breaking in her eyes. Guilt, longing, both at once. Then she leaned in, slow, uncertain. Her lips hovered near mine, close enough that I could feel her breath catch. The floor creaked somewhere down the hall. She froze. We both turned toward the sound. A shadow passing under the door. Someone moving downstairs. She whispered, barely audible, "Not now." But she didn't move away. Her hand stayed at my chest, trembling slightly, heartbeat syncing with mine through the thin fabric. The hallway went still again. She looked up, and this time, her voice was a whisper, dangerous and sure. "If you don't stop me, I won't stop." She avoided me the next morning. No coffee, no humming from the kitchen. The house felt hollow, like it had forgotten her sound. By the third day, I knocked on her door. No answer. Just the faint rustle of movement inside. Then silence. When she finally opened, her face was pale, tired. "I'm busy," she said. "You've been busy for 3 days." Her eyes flicked past me, down the hall, then back. "You shouldn't come down here." Something was wrong. Inside, the room smelled faintly of wine and paper. Scattered envelopes. A phone screen lit on the table. I caught a glimpse of an open message thread before she turned it face down. "What's going on?" She didn't answer. Instead, she rubbed her forehead, exhaled, then said quietly, "My sister came by again. Yesterday." "So?" "She saw us. That night, my pulse jumped. Saw? She didn't say it outright, but she knows. And she told the landlord. I blinked. I thought you were the landlord. Her mouth tightened. Not technically. It's my ex's name on the deed. He still checks in. Claims he's protecting the asset. She almost laughed. Now he's demanding to know who I'm entertaining upstairs. I didn't speak. Couldn't. She looked at me then, really looked. This isn't just gossip anymore. It's leverage. He could take the house. I stepped closer, hands curling at my sides. Then tell him the truth. Which truth? She said sharply. That a boy half my age can't stop looking at me? That I didn't tell him to stop. The silence after that felt electric. Too heavy, too charged to breathe in. I reached out, but she stepped back. Not far, just enough that the space between us hurt. Her voice softened. You don't understand what people see when they look at me. A woman like me doesn't get to make mistakes twice. You didn't make one. Her eyes flickered, disbelief, longing, something in between. You think that helps? She brushed past me, her shoulder grazing my arm. I turned, caught her wrist before she could move farther. Her hand trembled. Let go, she whispered. Tell me it meant nothing and I will. Her eyes shut. She didn't pull away. Her pulse beat under my fingers. Quick. Uneven. Finally, she said, barely audible. I tried. That broke something in both of us. I released her wrist slowly, but she didn't step back this time. She stayed there, close enough for me to see the tears she was trying not to blink away. Then, quietly, he's coming tomorrow, my ex, to see the house. It hit like a slap. So that's it? You're just going to... I'm going to keep my life together, she said, almost convincing herself. I nodded once, jaw tight. Then I'll start looking for a new place. Her breath caught. You don't have to. Yes, I do. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she reached up, fingertips brushing my jaw, one last dangerous line crossed. Don't make this harder, she whispered. It already is. Our eyes met. Both of us knowing what would happen next, and that we wouldn't be able to stop it. He was supposed to come at noon. Her ex, the man whose name was still on the deed, who still called once a month like she owed him something. By 10, she was pacing the kitchen, coffee untouched. I stood by the door, not sure if I was supposed to stay or leave. She didn't ask me to. He'll want to look around, she said finally. Just don't be here when he does. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. She kept tucking the same strand of hair behind her ear, then untucking it again. Are you scared of him? I asked. Her eyes lifted to mine. No, I'm scared of losing what little piece I've built. And me being here threatens that? She exhaled. You being here changes it. Something in the way she said that made my throat go dry. I stepped closer. Then maybe it's already changed. She didn't move away. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because I'll believe you. The air between us stilled. Outside, wind brushed against the windows, the house creaking with it. I reached up, slow, deliberate, and brushed my thumb across her cheek. Her breath caught. She didn't blink. You're shaking, I said quietly. So are you. We stood there, motionless, until she closed her eyes. You don't know what you're doing, she whispered. I do. Her hand rose, fingertips grazing my collarbone, then the side of my neck. I leaned closer, not thinking, just following the pull that had been building for weeks. When I spoke, my voice was barely sound. Tell me you don't want this. She didn't. Instead, she stepped forward, her forehead resting against mine. The scent of her skin, warm and faintly floral, filled everything. This isn't supposed to happen, she said. It already is. Her lips parted, almost touching mine. The softest edge of contact, a breath shared but not claimed. Then, from outside, a car door slammed. We both froze. Her eyes opened wide, searching mine. Panic, ache, something else too. Acceptance. It's him, she said, voice breaking slightly. I should have stepped back. I didn't. Let me stay, I whispered. She shook her head, tears gathering but not falling. If he sees you, then he'll see the truth. She gave a small, strangled laugh. You think that's brave. It's not. It's a kind of cruelty. I'm not leaving you alone. Her hand slipped to my chest. A gentle push that didn't quite push. Her palm stayed there, feeling the rhythm of my heartbeat. Then at least, she said softly, remember it wasn't for lack of wanting. For a moment longer, we stayed like that. Her breath on my neck, my hand on her back, both of us caught in a silence too fragile to survive. Then she stepped away. I'll tell him you've already moved out, she said quietly. Will that make it easier? She smiled, sad and real. No, but it'll make it believable. And that was when I finally understood her, not as a mystery, not as something forbidden, but as a person who'd already lost enough. He stayed 20 minutes, maybe less. I listened from the top of the stairs. Muffled voices, polite, measured. She sounded calm, almost detached, like she'd practiced the script a dozen times. When the front door shut, the silence that followed was different. Not heavy this time, just still. I waited another minute before going down. She was by the window, arms folded, watching the rain slide down the glass. No makeup now, no practiced distance. Just her, tired, beautiful in the quiet way that made time slow. Is he gone? I asked. She nodded. He wanted the spare keys back. Said he's transferring the title to me next month. That's good. She gave a small, almost disbelieving smile. Yeah, I guess it is. For a moment, neither of us moved. The air felt different now. Cleared somehow, stripped of all the tension we'd been carrying. You were right, she said finally. About the truth. I stepped closer. What about it? It doesn't ruin everything. She turned then, meeting my eyes. It just changes what happens next. Her hand brushed mine, not tentative this time, not testing, just certain. I let my fingers close around hers. Warm, familiar now, the kind of touch that says we've already been through the hardest part. She exhaled slowly. I kept thinking it was about age or what people would think or what it might cost me. But it wasn't that. What was it? She looked up, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. It was about letting someone see me again. Something in my chest tightened. Not the ache from wanting her, but from understanding her. Really understanding her. I reached out, brushing a thumb along her jaw, then tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She leaned into it, closing her eyes for a second longer than necessary. I don't know what this is yet, I said quietly, but I don't want it to end here. Her lips curved into that small, knowing smile, the same one that started all of this. Then don't let it. She stepped closer, her hand finding the back of my neck. I could feel her heartbeat when she rested her forehead against mine. Steady now, no hesitation left. We didn't need to rush the moment. We just stood there, breathing the same air, the rain tapping lightly against the window. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. You can stay this month, she said, and the next if you want. I smiled. You sure you're not just worried about rent? That made her laugh soft, unguarded, real. She pressed her palm against my chest again, shaking her head. Not this time. I kissed her forehead, and she closed her eyes. Not from surprise, but from relief. For the first time, nothing about it felt wrong. Just right. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?